Welcome to Talking Pictures Trivia, the podcast in which a group of geographically challenged friends explore movies through trivia as an excuse to keep their friendships alive. I'm one of these friends and today's host, Nick, and with me is...
Tom.
And Dan.
For those joining us for the first time, we start off each episode with a movie quiz, as these 4 rapid-fire trivia questions will determine who earns today's trivia crown. The first question is worth 1 point, and each question after that is worth 1 more point. Then we'll follow it up with a theme discussion, this week being Breaking the Spell. Thanks to our guest Dan for picking the movie this week. Tom, tell us about today's movie.
Walking up to theaters in 1993, we would have had to choose between The Philadelphia Experiment Part 2, Leprechaun, Children of the Corn Part 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 3, and today's movie, Groundhog Day. Nick will be our questionnaire today. Nick, what is Groundhog Day all about?
Groundhog Day has all the Pennsylvania polka you can dream of and more. We follow our egotistical weatherman, Phil Connors, as he gets stuck in a time loop repeating Groundhog Day ad infinitum. Phil goes through a whole series of emotions to eventually find out what's truly important to him, both personally and in terms of an ideal partner.
It's time for question 1.
I know Tom loves questions that involve numbers, so we have a variety of questions that involve numbers today. Not all, just a majority.
Okay, just a majority of 4. So 3 out of 4.
Here we go.
Here we go.
How many times do we see the radio alarm clock flips to 6 a.m.? Price is Right rules and honor code. Honor code here, as always. Okay.
Honor code.
Oh man,
I have no access to the to the answer. So, I guess you could look it up.
No, if someone says a number and you want to change the number, if you locked in second.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. I'll lock in.
all right, locked in.
Okay, Dan, you're going to start us up.
I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to say 8 times.
Tom?
I went with. Wait, is it over? Oh, I'm sorry. Did we?
I can't. No, it's Price is Right rules, and I'm
It
not
is
saying it until you tell me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm
I
pretty
was
conservative.
I was asking if it was Price Right rules.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with 25.
The point will go to Dan. It was 12 times.
It was 12 times? That's
12
it?
times
Oh,
we
wow.
actually see the clock. That doesn't mean 25 times of like changing time. You didn't always
Yeah.
see the clock.
I thought
Yeah.
maybe we saw it more, but
We definitely saw the clock a lot, but seeing that iconic
the
flip.
actual flip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I counted the flips. I knew that was going to be a question from the beginning. So I
Wow.
literally sat there and counted every flip. I didn't count when it statically said 6:01 at the final scene there,
No.
but the flip counted.
Yeah. I was thinking of like when you saw the clock at 6.
I wonder now if you're going to go back to the clock and like, how many times did he destroy it?
Yeah. That's another one that
Hmm.
could have been there, but no, we're not going to do that one.
Oh, okay.
But that is
But,
very
okay.
iconic, especially with that music kicking in every time.
I wanted to say, like below or above 10, but yeah. When you said 20, when you said 22, I'm like, oh man, I am way off.
I was thinking every time you see the 6, every time it
Yeah.
cuts. That's what I was thinking. So I'm like, it's got to be something like.
Yeah, no, you
Like
definitely
that.
see the clock a lot. I agree.
Yeah.
It's definitely like
There's that
number of
one
times.
scene where you just see it flip over and over again. And so
Yeah.
this can't be. It has to be more than
I
20.
I do appreciate the super slow mo, and you're just
Mm.
like, oh my god, the daunting.
You feel the weight of it.
I
So-
feel at that point, I literally feel the weight of him just waking up, like not again.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's time for question 2.
According to Rita, her perfect guy exemplifies how many traits? The closest to the number without going over.
I'm locked in.
Okay, early lock-in. I think he's doing some algebra in his head.
Well, I'm thinking about all the ways I'm wrong, and I'm like, there's only so many, so that's easy.
I'm gonna lock in 2.
Okay, Tom, start us up. How many traits?
I'm gonna say 5.
Okay. Dan, how many?
This is gonna be funny. I'm gonna roll the dice again with lucky number 8.
Okay. The points are going to go to Dan.
Mhm.
However, you both are way under.
Way under.
So, yeah. So I will share with you, who is your perfect guy? Someone who's too humble to know he's perfect, intelligent, supportive, funny, romantic, courageous, good body, but doesn't need to look in the mirror every 2 minutes, kind, sensitive, gentle, not afraid to cry in front of her, likes animals, likes children, likes to change poopy diapers, plays instruments, and loves his mother. That's a lot of characteristics.
That's was that 16?
Yes, 16.
All right. I was
16
halfway there.
traits. Well, that's what he says. I've got most of those or something to that degree. And Phil Connors exemplifies all of those traits. So, he's right there in front of her.
It's time for question 3.
Phil comes to a conclusion about his identity. What is he?
Oh, locked in.
Locked in.
Dan.
Oh man. I know we're not supposed to be bad words here, but doesn't he realize he's an
I will accept the answer as a locked-in answer.
All right.
There's worse words in the world, so we're okay. Tom.
God or gods?
Tom will get the 3 points. We have a tie going into the final question.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
He says, this is a little later. He does say that he's a jerk. He does say, she calls him that.
Yeah.
But when he's going through his trials and tribulations in the continuous day, he realizes he's a god, not the god, but a god.
I felt like that was a good step towards his progression of through this karmic cycle that he's stuck on. That he acknowledges that he is what everyone else already knew him to be.
Well, I like the line there where he was trying to convince her of his status as in godhood, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Maybe the real God uses tricks too. Maybe he's just been there long enough. He's not omnipotent. So I just thought that was a funny angle there.
Yeah.
It introduces the metaphysical. He starts to think in those terms.
We're back to numbers, Tom. We're back to numbers. Precise numbers too. This is not even going to be a Price is Right rules. This is going to be an exact number.
It's time for question 4.
What was the exact amount that Phil Connors went for at the charitable auction?
Oh, I think I'm locked in.
For all the marbles.
Oh man. I'm locked in.
Dan, start us up.
I think she said, what was left in that checkbook? Rita? $398.93.
Tom.
I thought it was $330.80.
Oh my gosh, you're so close, but neither of you got it. I kind of wanted to go to bonus questions anyway, so which is perfect. It was $339.88. Tom, you were very, very close.
Oh yeah, it was 88. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just realized I had dyslexia, so that worked out. Because I said 390, no, I said 98. Yeah, I got the numbers.
You had some of the numbers, different orders. It was repeated. That's why I figured to go. But hey, that's a 4-pointer, so you got to earn it, right?
No,
So
totally.
We're still gonna go. We're going into bonus rounds now. I mean,
It's time for a bonus question.
When he takes Rita back to his room, he asks her if she wants ice cream. It is on the windowsill, and he gets the ice cream. It would be easier for me to ask you what flavor of that ice cream. It would be Rocky Road. What was the name of the ice cream company on the carton?
No idea. I'll lock in an answer.
I'll lock in too.
Okay, Dan.
I don't know if they would have paid for the rights for this, but I'm going to say Haagen-Dazs.
Tom?
I'm going to just say Pakatani Scoop.
Okay, it was a bad question. It was just randomly something called Anderson's, but I just figured I'd throw that in there for a tough question.
That's a tough one.
It's time for a bonus question.
What is Rita's favorite alcoholic beverage?
Oh, locked in.
Oh, locked in. I think we're gonna tie here, Tom.
The most
Yeah.
specific answer will get the points.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
No. It's okay. It's okay. I think it is. If it comes down to Dan, what is her favorite alcoholic beverage?
I thought it was sweet vermouth with a twist on the rocks.
Tom?
I had the exact same thing. Sweet
Yep.
vermouth on the rocks with a twist. Sorry.
Yes, you both get it right.
Okay.
Yes.
Next
The words
up.
were all there. The order might have
But
been.
what was Phil's drink? No, I'm just kidding.
Something
What was
brown.
yeah.
It was like it was whiskey, and then he did like this thing with his hand. I remember saying like how many parts it should be of like how much is whiskey, how much should be like ice, and like the rest be
Yes.
like still water or something like that. But I don't remember exactly. I don't remember what kind of whiskey.
It's time for a bonus question.
What does Rita like to drink to?
Oh, locked in.
Locked in.
Dan.
World peace.
Yeah, world peace.
The prayer is that was him just ad-libbing there, just like throwing that in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could top you, Rita.
Lay it on thick.
It's time for a bonus question.
What was the name? Because technically this is in the film. Okay. Credits could
All right.
count. What is the name of the actor that played the groundhog? The actual groundhog.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'll lock in.
Oh, it's in the credits? Oh man.
I'll give you a better question after this. I just like the name.
I just like where you get to pull answers from. I mean, like this is ridiculous.
Now, usually we don't do this. This is because we're in like mega bonus. Yeah.
No, this is good though. This is like sneaky and so unexpected. I don't know. I'm gonna say I'll lock in. I have no idea.
Okay, you both just go for it. I don't care.
I had Fred.
Chucky?
Obviously, it was Scooter the Groundhog. I mean,
Scooter.
come on. And funny enough,
Most famous groundhog actor ever.
when they were filming this film, Bill Murray got bit twice by the groundhog and actually had to get rabies shots.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yep.
Okay, this one's going to end it. Super mega bonus round.
It's time for a bonus question.
There was a night where Rita was staying up with him. She finally believed that he was living the same day over and over. And she waited first till midnight and thought that was the magic moment where he would disappear, which didn't happen. He never said that. What was the last time we saw on the famous radio alarm clock before they fall asleep and it's the next day? What's the last time we see? Closest to the time without going over.
I'll lock in.
Oh man!
For all the marbles again, for real this time. There will be a winner.
I'm locked in.
Yeah, I'm locked in too.
Okay, Dan, what is the time?
I want to say it was like 12:03.
Tom,
I think it's 4:03.
since it's the closest without going over, it's actually going to be Dan, even though he's nowhere near it.
I'm way
It
off.
was 3:02 in the morning was the last time we saw the time. So congratulations, Dan, for taking down the episode.
Very
Wow.
good.
Well,
Congratulations. Yes.
thank you. I guess I feel very proud of myself being that far off the winner.
You should. We'll be diving into our topic of the week, breaking the spell, after this quick message.
Join another Talking Studios production, Limited Lexicon, where we play through text-based adventure games. Text-based adventure games were computer games from before computers had graphics. The game uses text to describe a scene, and the player types back how they want to interact with the game. I'll read the text from the computer, and my co-host will feed me commands. This season, we're playing through The Hobbit from 1982 on the ZX Spectrum. Here's a quick sample.
I thought a lot about our first command, and I think it should be no print because we don't want to print things as we're going along.
I think by default, it's not going to print. And even if I did type print, where's it going to print to? 1982?
I would imagine if we go west, we're going to be south of the troll, right? Just south of the troll land.
Yeah, let's try it.
You go west. The troll's clearing. The visible...
Oh, we died.
Wow.
All right.
The troll saw us and killed us.
So I think we have to say the answer to the riddle then.
The answer is dark.
Say dark, I think.
Talk to what?
Golem.
Gollum.
Say Gollum, dark.
You talk to Gollum. Thorin says, hurry up.
And we died.
What?
And we died.
So we went northeast last time. So let's go southwest.
You go southwest. Visible exits are north, northwest. You see the valuable golden ring.
Oh.
We're ending it here. That's
Wait.
perfect. That's perfect.
Limited Lexicon, coming to your podcatcher and YouTube in late 2022 by Talking Studios.
And we're back. There were a lot of different ways we could have dissected this film, the standard time loop, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the concept of possibly breaking the spell. Not only how did he get into this time loop, but what eventually stopped it from continuing. So thought that would be a good one for today.
Sure. What ends up breaking the time loop is that he's able to take joy in these kind of daily activities and make his life meaningful in such a way that it brings love to him or attracts love to him, as opposed to the way he's trying to get love from Rita, which is this sort of plotting and sort of cover. He wants to sort of capture her, and it's only by really completely leaving behind ambition. It becomes he has no ambition by the end. He's just doing things for these kind of love of the people, or just love for the thing itself, like learning to play the piano. He does not do towards a goal. He just wants to do it. And it's this surrendering of ambition that attracts love to him, and that breaks the spell. That seems to be what the movie is about. As I mentioned in our first impressions last week, it's about the end of ambition, and that as freedom.
Exactly. In the very beginning, he wants to just get out of it, right? He's trying. There's always a goal behind all of his actions, whether it's nefarious or just trying to work the system, realizing, hey, I can't die. I can do anything I want. But then he's always trying to cheat, I guess, like what's laid in front of him, and he hasn't just kind of accepted like his fate and realizing that, I should stop doing things because I for all the 7 deadly sins, for example, all the things that for all the wrong reasons, but just doing it because, what, maybe that if I have to keep reliving this over and over again, maybe I should be trying to help as many people as I can and not expecting anything in return. I think that he has become so much more humble, through this whole progression, and realize that, yeah, there's an opportunity for him to just constantly improve himself, but not for any type of ambition, but it's really just to do the right thing for the right reasons, from helping that old man or trying as many times, right? You only see it a couple times, but this happens, 10 years in a row, or maybe 10 or 1,000 years in a row. Like, you don't really know how long he's been stuck in this. But you start to see these glimpses of where he's growing so much as an individual, but for all the right reasons, and really starting to not expect anything in return. Him declaring his love at Rita at the end is, again, him just saying that he wanted to leave a long-lasting impression, or he wanted to do all the things for the right reasons. But again, even him, the way he like falls in love with her and doesn't expect anything in return. I think it's that understanding where he breaks that cycle. It's like everything, like you said, there's no ambition, but just doing because it feels like it should be the right thing to do. And that is where I think it helps him break through.
One of the things I really noticed in this watch for me, again, I've always just kind of passively enjoyed this film. I haven't really analyzed it, right? I just kind of was a passenger. But this time I saw something different. We talk in some other movies about adolescent coming of age, a lot of these kind of coming of age films.
Mm-hmm.
I actually almost thought this was like an adult coming of age. So in the beginning, he's like,
I'm going to be super successful. I'm going to go to the big markets. I'm doing this. Then the next thing that's interesting to him is his conquests, of the opposite sex. These are things that like, oh, I think are so important. And then only through these trials and tribulations does he actually mature and realize there's more in life. So this is just something that hit me in this watch. I thought it was an interesting take on how he was, even though he was technically an adult, he wasn't acting like a grown ass man. He was acting like a child.
Yeah. He really matured and grew like 50 years worth of life in this span of just one day, repeated over and over again. In a way, like as much as that would suck and thinking about being stuck in that, even in the city that you hate and in a place, in a job that you don't like, and reliving the same, dealing with the same people you don't want to be around. I am actually, like you said, Nick, I was passively the first time I've watched it. This time, I'm just kind of like, as much as that would suck, I would love to actually have to go through that. Being able to grow so much and then not age at all, and just thinking about how much wiser I would be towards the end of it.
Dan, was just this the scene when he's eating all the snacks and can't gain any weight? Is that the thing that really?
Oh my gosh! Can you imagine how many times he did that? He probably blew his wallet, all the money. They went to the nicest restaurant in Punxsutawney, whatever that it may be. But either way, yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is in some ways kind of acting like a man, like a grown ass man, in the sense of that he's like fluttering around trying to get everything right. He wants the big job is he going to Chicago or LA?
A bigger market, I could tell you, whatever it was.
It's out of
bigger
Pittsburgh.
than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's bigger than the 45th largest city in America. So he is doing this kind of adult thing of rising up in the world, and but his kind of coming of age, to use what you're talking about, Nick, is really a kind of recognition of like how little a place or how little import he actually has in the world, which I think is what if you're an adult and you're coming of age, that becoming middle-aged or becoming older, the thing you deal with in a sort of midlife crisis is the recognition of how little important your work is, or your role is. I mean, he's going to become a weatherman in the third largest city in the third most populated country on the world. I mean, this is not, when you describe it that way, it doesn't seem that impressive, but for him, he's a celebrity. He's a person of importance. And I think one of the transitions that people make as they get older, which this film kind of captures, is a recognition of, how little import our ambitions really are. We don't really matter that much. And so therefore we have to make what's in front of us, make that matter, make it our business. Take joy in learning a new task, like playing the piano, because the big tasks, the things that really matter, they don't really matter very much.
And the joy in the little things too, right? Helping the ladies, helping the old man, helping the kid, when he's falling in the street, like really just trying to do the right thing.
He never thanks him.
who he was never thanked. Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up, because he seems jokingly bitter about it, but he's not. He's like, I'm going to keep doing this because this is what's important to him now. It's just an understanding that he's leaving a positive mark on the smaller circles without thinking about himself. And I think that's what, like you were saying before, Tom, like it's this growth. He's losing all that vanity. He's really just kind of let it go away.
Yeah, it's death of the ego.
Completely. The ego is just out, and it's about the connection. And I kind of enjoy how, because I honestly do not believe that if I got out of this loop, I would ever say what he says to Reed at the end. He's like, let's move here.
That's what I always say. How
like, how
great is
can
that?
you
He's
say
like,
that? To me, I'm like, no, you get away from this town.
yeah, he loved it so much in the end, though. We'll rent first, though. We'll rent.
Yeah. That was funny.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's this idea of now he has a duty for others that has nothing to do with him, right? It's a sort of disinterested duty, disinterested in the sense of that it does not care about reciprocation.
And not to be seen, yeah, like not to be like, acknowledged for it. Like he's completely doesn't even care about acknowledgement because he knows that there isn't going to be any. And I think that like it's a more humble way of living every day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly. And I think it's also you learn to accept your fate, which is what happens with the old man who dies.
Yeah.
It's a problem he can't solve, and so the wisdom that you have to acquire is, to change the things you can, to accept the things you can't, and to be able to know the difference. And this is I think what that sequence does, the old man dying sequence, is that he has to accept what he cannot change. And that's where the balance ends up being. Once he becomes invested in helping people, that also has to be tempered by acceptance of limitation.
Before we wrap this up, I had a question for all of us. How many iterations of Groundhog Day in Puxatawny do you think Phil went through?
I'm going to say 32 years.
Any evidence?
Nope. Just like
congratulations to no, but
It's funny. I actually, in support of this podcast, I actually wanted to see. I saw some like behind the scenes kind of like videos or some like other people were doing reviews and interviews about this, and Harold Ramis had said that I forgot his name now. Dan Rubin, if I'm not the writer who wrote and originally who wrote the original screenplay. I thought it was interesting how they actually had this, was that it's supposed to be starting in like the middle of like, they say quote unquote like the 1,000 years of like that he's supposed to be doing this like he's supposed to be doing this for like 1,000 years, and you don't see it in the beginning like you do like the first time. It was actually like one of the producers who recommended to Harold, the director, that maybe we should, wouldn't the audience feel cheated if they didn't see how he got sucked into this in the very beginning? So then there was a rewrite, and that's how he got his writing credits to this. But yeah, I heard that it was something like 10,000, and I think it being 1,000 when I heard Harold say this in an interview. I think that eventually when they rewrote it, I think it was something more like 10 or 50 years, something like that. I think that to me made sense, because like to get good at all the things that you see him get good. And then I saw some like deleted scenes and outtakes. He ended up like being like a pro bowler, really good at playing pool as well, and these other things. But I think that he expanded his knowledge. I mean, I would like to think that it wasn't so long, because at some point I have a feeling that if he was really like 10,000 years, I don't know, I just could see him just going AWOL and just I don't know. 50 years is what I'm going to guess. Get good at all the things he can.
Yeah, the only evidence that I had that even kind of alluded to time, but again, it could have just been turning a phrase. He said like he had died thousands of times. Now, I don't know if he literally was counting or if that was the actual number, but that's the only thing that he said that kind of gave us something. And I guess you could extrapolate out the different phases or different periods. Like how long was his conquest phase? How long was his God phase? How long was his, there was these different phases.
How many times would he try to kill himself?
Yeah, well, again, I mean, the only thing is he said thousands of times. So I don't know what that actually means. I mean, is that a few years worth of deaths? So I have trouble. I don't know if you said 50, Tom, you said 32.
Yeah, that was my,
I always thought it was a lower number, but after talking about it and looking into it, I mean, it could have been significantly longer than any of us are talking about. So I just thought it was interesting to see what your guys' thoughts were on the time period.
He has to learn everybody's stories, and then after that, he has to become a kind of great pianist and what have you. How long does it take to become a great pianist?
But he also did know each of the side characters, just like you said, Tom. So that means he had to spend days exploring with each one of those people too.
Yeah, to know each one of them intimately, right? Like all the, having conversations with all of them. I mean, he probably, I would think if I was him, I would have to think like, maybe I have to talk to everybody here until I know everybody. And that's the only way I can get out of this place. That's why I'm still in Puxatawny. I don't know
think it's
everyone
longer.
yet.
I think it's longer than any of us said, actually, just by talking through this. Because how many iterations of each one of those conversations? No fudge, no white chocolate. You know, making all these. I know he was more interested in her than many of the side characters, but still, like, there's some depth to that.
Well, yeah, she was like the forbidden fruit that would never give in. It had to be tonight, right? And she was like, no, I'm just not that type of girl. And he could never change her, no matter what he could do, because he wanted her to just submit to him, and that was the only way that he would be, satisfied. But it's true. I mean, thousands of times, I like to think that he probably tried to expand his horizon. I honestly, Tom, I'm starting to think that the only reason why I say 50 years and you say 30, was like, we like to believe that we could accomplish that type of growth in a lifetime. Like we could be able to become so mature and so lose our vanity and humble and be appreciative of all the things that we have in a lifetime that we can imagine. Because I think it's like 10,000 years. It's like, oh man, I'll never be that. I'll never be able to achieve all the things that he has, even as finite or limited it is in scope.
So I'm going to lock in my guess. So my guess, I'm moving up from both of you. I'm saying 100 years or 36,500 days. I feel like you could get to know the whole town in 36,500 days.
Yeah, there is something kind of poetic about it being about 100 years or about a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. To do this.
Exactly.
That this becomes the story of one's life is the story of the death of one's ego, right? And that's where happiness comes from. Because ultimately it's a movie about being happy or finding happiness. And Rita is sort of a guide to him in how to do that. And it's the fact that he can't game her the way he can game everyone else. She's resistant to merely expertise, memorization. She's resistant to his appetite. That's what it is. He can't have an appetite. He can't want her and get her. He has to sort of give her up in order to get her and submit to this kind of this collection of selfless
she's kind of like the epitome of what he needed to be in order to move on, because she's representative of this perfect, humble, who enjoyed, let's say, the fine arts, if you will, and just being a good person for the right reasons. In any situation, she tried to see every situation, as you could hear her say, like, how she loved the town. She thought it was nice. Everything's nice when everything's nice. That's kind of like her attitude towards life. Yeah.
You know what's really nice? That Dan won this episode. So congratulations, Dan, for being the winner of this week.
All right. This is a time loop I can get stuck in. This is good.
Very good.
For 100 years or 36,500 days? I don't know. Could get old. My questions weren't that good. I'll admit it.
As long as it's not just this podcast that I get stuck in, I'm okay with the whole day around it.
Fair enough. That's good.
You can rate and review this show anywhere podcasts are available. For those viewing in YouTube land, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the Talking Studios channel for all our exciting content, and follow us on Twitter at Talking Studios. Check out other shows by Talking Studios, including Keep Making Movies, where we explore micro-budget films, Limited Lexicon, where we play through text-based adventure games, and Get the Point, where we slowly reveal a movie poster and try to guess which movie poster it is. Got a question for us? Call the Talking Studios hotline at 201-467-8679 and leave a message. It may be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Talking Pictures Trivia wherever fine podcasts are found.
Join us next time when we discuss Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from 2019. Stay tuned for our first impressions of this film. Ding, 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 ding. Next week, we'll be discussing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from 2019. Tom, how was your watch?
I saw this movie in the theaters when it first came out, and I then watched it again on my laptop in preparation for this episode. And this is my favorite Tarantino movie. I'm not a big Tarantino fan. Most people my age are. don't get the Pulp Fiction thing. I think it's kind of odd and gross movie. I have a little more affection for the Kill Bills, but not a tremendous amount. This film, though, I think really is excellent. And it kind of reveals his heart in a way that sort of deluge of Easter eggs in his other movies, I think really fails to. In those films, we get this idea of affection for cinema as just being plentitude. There's just a lot of references. Therefore, we know he watched a lot of movies. And for some reason, that's supposed to mean he liked them or he likes movies. Here, there really is this kind of warm love for not just the cinema, but for this time that produced these movies and really these television shows as well. More predominantly the television shows. And so I think it's his best movie. I think it's his best movie by far. Andrew, how was your first watch?
Oh, I just love this movie. I have to agree a lot with you on everything you said. I think at times Tarantino could maybe be a little rapid with his delivery, which is odd, and most of his movies are over 2 hours, so it's just rapid fire for a long time. I like his expositional dialogue. I happen to like the conversational way he does his films, but I think he really took his time. There was a lot of space in this movie for things to play out and to sort of breathe it in. I think a lot of times this movie is a feel, not only just something to enjoy, but there's a feel to it that's very evocative, and I enjoyed that about it. And it's a big Hollywood movie with a big Hollywood director and big Hollywood stars at a time in 2019 where, aside from the Marvel movies, was sort of few and far between. So at the time, it was extremely refreshing to see. So I just really enjoy this movie. KJ, what are you thinking there?
So I saw this in theaters. It was a nominee for Best Picture. So my wife and I usually try to go see all those. I had no idea about the history at all. And if you know nothing about the history when you're watching this, there's no tension. There's no plot. It's a lovely little movie. Like, it's gorgeous. All the people in it are gorgeous. The cinematography is gorgeous. But there's no reason to watch it because there's nothing happening. It's you need to know, or you need to think you know what's going to happen, or else... How about you, Nick? How was your watch?
When I watched this for the first time, literally finishing it up yesterday, it's been on my list for a while to watch. I immediately thought of KJ, and I was like, I wonder if KJ knows all the history behind this. And I sent a text earlier, and he's like, Nick's, I don't know what you said, but something like Nick's got you pegged, or Nick's whatever, you know. But needless to say, before I go into all that fun stuff, I'd love to hear what Tom is not fond of or a fan of, because Tom's the one who introduced me to all of these movies back in the day. So the Tarantinos, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction, like, these all were VHSs we watched at Tom's house. So
yeah, we were like 12.
No, I know, but it's just funny
You know,
that was my introduction. Of course, no, I think we were younger
than that.
Yeah. But still, it's just funny because your tastes have evolved and the world has evolved too. But needless to say, that's a little background exposition on that. When it comes down to this film, I have to really tip my hat to my wife, because she gave me a little bit more of the facts that I didn't know, specifically with Sharon Tate, and we'll talk about this more next week, but how not just a killing it was, but how vicious. So I was sitting here without knowing exactly what was going to happen. It's like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Oh my gosh, it's going to be horrible. When's it going to happen? And then something completely different happened, which I should have known that it wasn't going to play out that way. But you don't know, because I tried to go into this blind. I purposely didn't want to know more. I knew Manson was involved somehow in the time period. So for me, it was refreshing because I went in as close as blind as possible, but was still having that little bit of knowledge that KJ was talking about that's essential to enjoy the film. So I did. And we'll talk more about that next week.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is available on Fubo at the time of this recording.
Is
Whatever
Fubo available?
Is. I don't know what it is.
At the time of this recording.
Wow, Talking Studios,